There is a quiet power in the solitude of a man, not the kind of solitude born from rejection, but the one chosen willingly, out of principle, purpose, or patience. In a world that constantly whispers in his ear, "Settle down, find someone, be complete," the single man walks a different path, a slower, more contemplative journey. He does not rush, he does not chase, he observes. And the longer he stays single, the more he begins to understand things others miss. The more he sees, the more he feels. Not emotionally, but philosophically. He watches his peers rush into relationships out of fear of being alone. He sees them compromise, adjust, abandon parts of themselves in order to keep someone. But the man who remains single begins to see through this. He begins to sense that much of what people call love is simply the fear of solitude dressed in romance. This is where Stoicism enters. For the Stoic, solitude is not a curse, it is a teacher. The longer a man is single, the more he learns self-sufficiency, not just financially but emotionally. He becomes his own companion, his own anchor. He understands that no one is coming to save him, nor should they. That love, when it comes, must be an addition, not a remedy. He becomes more precise with his time, more careful with his energy. He does not allow drama to touch his peace. He no longer engages in the games of emotional manipulation or passive-aggressive exchanges. He values directness, simplicity, silence, and he learns to love the silence. He begins to understand that true masculinity is not in domination, but in discipline, not in desire, but in detachment. The Stoic man does not chase every woman. He does not fall for every glance. He does not surrender his purpose for pleasure. Instead, he strengthens himself. Day by day, he forges a deeper bond with his inner world. He reads, he lifts, he meditates. He walks alone, not because he must, but because he chooses to. There is wisdom in walking alone. There is growth in silence. The longer he is single, the more dangerous he becomes, not to others, but to the systems that profit from his weakness. He becomes harder to manipulate, harder to please, harder to fool, because he knows what peace feels like, and he won't exchange it for chaos, even if it comes wrapped in beauty. This man has learned that loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. Loneliness is the absence of others. Solitude is the presence of oneself. And in this presence, he discovers clarity. He sees how relationships have become transactions, how love has become a marketplace. Swipe left, swipe right, buy, sell, trade, discard. But he steps away from this game. He is no longer desperate for validation. His worth is not defined by who chooses him. He has chosen himself, and that is enough. He watches the world chase comfort while he chooses discomfort willingly. Cold showers, early mornings, heavy lifting, long walks in the rain. He does not seek pleasure. He seeks virtue, strength, character, because he knows true fulfillment does not come from the outside. It is not found in another person. It is built from within. The longer he is single, the more he understands that time is sacred, and so he guards it. He does not give his time to people who drain his energy. He does not entertain shallow conversations. He prefers depth, even in silence. He begins to ask deeper questions. What is my purpose? What legacy will I leave? What kind of man am I becoming when no one is watching? And slowly he becomes unrecognizable, not to others, but to his past self. He becomes the man he once admired, the man he once doubted he could become. Not perfect, but grounded, stoic, solid, silent. And when love comes, and it will, he will not fall. He will rise, because he is not looking for someone to complete him. He is already whole. He is looking for someone who has also walked alone, who has also embraced solitude, who also understands that real love is not dependency, but partnership, not possession, but presence. And if such a person never comes, he remains content, because he has tasted freedom, and once a man tastes true freedom, he never begs for captivity again. So the longer a man is single, the more he becomes a mystery to the world, but a friend to himself. And that is a power few can understand. There is a misunderstood journey in the life of a man, a path often overlooked, often mocked, and rarely honored. It is the journey of the man who walks alone, not because he cannot find someone, but because he has found something far more rare: himself. The longer a man is single, the more he begins to evolve in ways that are invisible to the ordinary eye. He is no longer operating by society's script: find someone, settle down, stay busy, be normal. Instead, he begins writing his own script, a slower one, a deeper one, a life lived not in pursuit of validation, but in pursuit of virtue. The transformation begins in silence. At first, the solitude feels strange. There is an ache, not for a person, but for identity. Because for years he was told, your worth is tied to your relationship status. But when the noise of the world dies down and no one is texting back and the nights stretch long and quiet, a man is finally left with the rawest question of all: who am I without anyone else? This is the threshold, and the longer he walks this path, the more he sees the truth. Most people run from the silence. They hide in affection, they cling to connection, they fear themselves, but not him, not anymore. The rise of inner discipline. A man alone has no one to impress, no one to perform for, no stage, no script, no applause, only a mirror. And in that mirror, he sees the flaws, but also the potential. He begins to build, slowly, patiently, not for display, not for admiration, but for inner order. He wakes early, not to prove something to the world, but because stillness lives in the morning. He trains his body, not to post it online, but because it sharpens the mind. He reads ancient wisdom, not to quote it in conversation, but to train the soul in silence. And as days become weeks and weeks become years, he becomes solid, like a mountain, not easily moved, not easily shaken, not easily impressed. Freedom from illusion. The longer a man is single, the more illusions fall away. He sees how much of love in the modern world is transactional. He watches people enter relationships for lifestyle upgrades, emotional bandages, or because they cannot stand a moment alone. He observes the rituals, the flowers, the dinners, the captions, and senses the hollowness beneath them. He is not bitter. He is not against love. He simply refuses to lower his standards in order to numb his loneliness, because he has outgrown the need to escape himself. And so he waits, not in passivity, but in preparation. A man who no longer chases. Once upon a time, he chased love. He chased women. He chased validation. He thought being loved meant being worthy, but now he knows being worthy means being whole, whether loved or not. He no longer runs after beauty. He no longer begs for attention. He no longer gives his peace away in exchange for temporary comfort. He is no longer interested in playing the emotional games people use to test each other. He would rather be alone than be confused. His energy has become too expensive for chaos. The Stoic heart. To the outside world, he may seem cold, detached, distant, guarded, but inside his heart burns with clarity. He has developed the Stoic mind. He does not overreact. He does not over-explain. He does not need to be understood. He observes. He reflects. He responds with purpose. Where others seek pleasure, he seeks alignment. Where others seek attention, he seeks tranquility. And while others crumble at rejection, he smiles, knowing that what is not aligned is a blessing to lose. The weight of self-knowledge. The longer he is single, the more he realizes that the greatest burden is not loneliness, it's self-awareness. Because once you truly know yourself, your standards rise. Your tolerance for superficiality drops. Your time becomes sacred. You no longer tolerate half-effort. You no longer fake laughter. You no longer participate in things that drain your soul. You become rare. And the rare are often misunderstood, feared, even envied, but never broken. And if love finds him, he will not fall. He will rise. He will not be consumed by romance. He will not forget his path. Because real love does not distract a man from his mission, it walks beside it. And if no such love appears, he remains unmoved, because he has found something most men never discover, peace, and he will not give it up. Not for charm, not for beauty, not for pressure, not even for comfort. Because the man who walks alone is not empty. He is full of presence, full of power, full of purpose. And so, the longer a man is single, the more he evolves beyond the reach of mediocrity. He becomes a man of depth in a shallow world, a man of calm in a noisy culture, a man of principle in a society of impulse. The longer he walks alone, the more dangerous he becomes to the systems that benefit from his weakness, and the more free he becomes to live, to think, to choose, to be. The longer a man walks alone, the more he becomes a paradox. To the world he appears incomplete, but in truth, he is becoming whole. In the eyes of others, he's behind, but in the realm of the soul, he's ahead. He is a mystery to those who believe life is only lived through relationships. But he is a student of a deeper law, one older than time, written not on paper but in silence. Know thyself, and to know oneself truly, without filters, without comfort, without distractions, requires solitude. Not a weekend getaway, not an hour of journaling, but real solitude, long, quiet, unbroken time with the self. That's what happens when a man remains single. Not because he's unloved, but because he refuses to lose himself in superficial love. He begins as the world told him to be. Like most men, he starts his life listening. Find a woman, settle down, be a provider, make her happy. Suppress yourself for harmony. Do what's expected. He tries, he follows the path, but somewhere along the line, he begins to feel empty. Not because love is wrong, but because his identity has been outsourced. He has become a ghost in his own life, and in a quiet moment, whether through heartbreak, burnout, or revelation, he breaks away. He chooses silence over noise, depth over appearances, solitude over chaos, and everything begins to change. The death of the boy, the birth of the man. The longer he is single, the more layers begin to fall off. The need for attention, the hunger for validation, the fear of being alone, gone. He confronts the boy inside him, the one who was taught that his value depends on being loved by someone else, and that boy must die. In his place, a man is born, a man who walks alone, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. He no longer looks for someone to complete him. He is already full. He is already steady. He realizes if two people need each other to feel whole, what they have is mutual dependency, not love. True love, he understands now, is when two whole beings choose to walk beside each other, not to fill a void, but to share a fire. And until that alignment appears, he walks alone. Willingly, proudly, gratefully, he becomes unbreakable. The man who has sat alone in silence for months, who has stared his fears in the face, who has rebuilt his life from the inside out, is a man no longer fragile. He cannot be manipulated by charm. He cannot be lured by flattery. He cannot be broken by rejection, because he has met rejection, lived with it, dined with it, and walked out stronger. He no longer fears loneliness, because he has seen what lies beyond it. And what lies beyond it is not despair, it's freedom. The freedom to choose who enters his life and who does not. The freedom to say no without guilt. The freedom to walk away from anything that costs his peace. He becomes selective, not because he is arrogant, but because he has tasted real peace. And once a man tastes peace, he cannot go back to chaos. The collapse of the modern fantasy. The longer he is single, the more clearly he sees the illusions. He sees the modern dating culture for what it is: fast, fragile, performative. He sees that many are in relationships not because they're in love, but because they're afraid. Afraid of being alone, afraid of facing themselves, afraid of what silence might reveal. He sees people mistaking infatuation for compatibility, attention for affection, and intimacy for connection. He sees people swiping endlessly, not for someone real, but for a fantasy. But the man who walks alone has no time for fantasy. He is grounded. He is rooted. He seeks truth. He is not impressed by how someone looks. He is drawn to how someone thinks, lives, speaks, treats silence. He no longer entertains drama. He no longer negotiates with disrespect. He no longer makes space for the immature, the unclear, the dishonest. Not because he is cruel, but because he is clear. He lives by higher laws. The longer he is single, the more he begins to live by different laws. Not the laws of social media, not the laws of public opinion, not even the laws of relationship success. He lives by the laws of the Stoics. Does this align with reason? Does this preserve my peace? Is this in harmony with nature and virtue? He lives by Seneca, who said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." He lives by Marcus Aurelius, who wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And so he becomes one, not through followers, likes, or romantic triumphs, but through daily silent choices. He builds a life that is deliberate, clean, structured, peaceful. He eats with discipline, trains with intensity, reads with devotion, works with purpose, because he is no longer looking for a partner to fix his life. He is creating a life worthy of sharing. And if the right woman comes, she will not find a desperate man. She will not find a boy seeking a mother. She will not find someone begging to be loved. She will find a man who knows who he is. He will not ask her to carry his purpose. He will not lose himself to make her happy. He will not build his life around her. He will invite her into a life already built. And if she aligns, walks with him in depth, clarity, and freedom, he will love her fiercely, loyally, deeply. But if she does not, he will continue walking, unaffected, untouched, unshaken, because he is not afraid to be alone. He is afraid of wasting his sacred energy on the wrong path. And if no one comes, he will still rise. He will still grow. He will still live a life of depth and presence. Because the man who chooses himself fully is never without meaning. He will mentor. He will write. He will build. He will serve. Because his life is not a waiting room for romance. It is a mission. And this mission does not require a companion. It requires courage. Final reflection. So if you see a man walking alone, do not pity him. Do not assume he is lost, broken, or unloved. He may be the most centered man in the room, the most dangerous, not because he harms, but because he cannot be controlled. Because a man who has mastered solitude cannot be seduced by noise, cannot be distracted by pleasure, cannot be destroyed by rejection. The longer a man is single, the more he becomes what the world quietly fears. A man who needs nothing from it, and that is real power.